Studying is so broad, and so studying maths the same way you would study English, or studying French the same way you study physics, is really stupid. And as a student myself, over the years, and still now, I study a lot of weird and wacky subjects. Maths, English, Latin, French, biology, chemistry, Japanese, physics, theology and philosophy, history, geography, computer science, music, DT, classical literature, music, art, economics, psychology are just some of the subjects I've studied. And of course, out of those subjects, I had some subjects that I preferred and some I didn't like so much. As students, that doesn't really matter because obviously you have to study a lot of subjects, but then you also need to get good grades for them. And actually, I was able to do this, as you can see. And so I've learned a thing or two about how to study for each type of subject, how to get the best grades in as little time as possible. And I'll be sharing the secret sauce. I would love to go through every single subject, but then the video will be 36 hours long. So I'll be dividing all subjects into 3 main categories and telling you how you should study for each of them, with the first one being the conceptuals. This list includes subjects such as biology, chemistry, physics, psychology. Very conceptual subjects. And as the name suggests, whether it be like respiration, reactions, wavelengths, these subjects are subjects that require you to understand and learn lots of concepts. So obviously for these subjects, knowing your concepts is going to be a key part. And so we can follow this chain when we're studying for these subjects, which is memorize, understand, and then apply. You have to do a lot of memorization for these types of subjects, whether it be like the different names of organic compounds, the stages of protein synthesis, different properties of different materials. There is a lot to memorize, and the best way to memorize is by using flashcards. Students make the mistakes of trying to memorize by rereading notes, but studies again and again show this to be really ineffective, whereas studies actually show that flashcards are really good at memorizing. And that's because they use a concept of practiced informational retrieval. And basically the thing you just need to know is that they work. And so get an app on your phone, put a question on one side or the thing you want to remember, and then put the answer on the other side. And look at these flashcards little but often and whenever you can. So while in the background you're learning like the basic facts, definitions, and concepts, we can move on to understanding. If you can actually understand a topic, memorization becomes much easier. If you have to brute force memorize every single stage of protein synthesis without actually understanding it, that might take a long time. Whereas if you actually understand why mRNA is being created, protein synthesis actually becomes really easy, and that's why we end up learning a lot quicker because of the simple facts when we understand. And so make sure you're understanding. Thus, a great way to study and revise for sciences and conceptual subjects is to use tables. Whether it's a table comparing photosynthesis versus respiration, or comparing all of the different waves on an EM spectrum, tables are great because they allow you to understand how the thing you're trying to memorize fits in with a bigger picture, and how they all link together, how different functional groups behave in a certain way. You can compare similarities versus differences, and it's a form of active revision, and you can learn really quickly. And you can also revise and study effectively in this way by giving yourself blank tables and having to fill in the gaps, and it's a great way to study. And lastly, now we have to apply that information, right? Remember that chain. And so now we do this by doing lots and lots of practice questions. Find them online, do the ones in your textbooks, but the point you have to realize is that although the concepts that are testing might be about like chemical reactions, physics, the way that exams are testing our knowledge on these things aren't by making us do an experiment. The way they're getting us to apply the information is through an exam paper, a piece of paper where you answer questions. They're testing you by making you do questions. And so the best way to apply your knowledge is to actually practice this by doing past papers, question papers, and spamming questions until you memorize and can articulate your knowledge and concepts that you learn in the correct way, since you studied the questions and you studied off of the mark scheme. And the second group of subjects are the technicals. This includes the big maths, computer science, engineering, French, music, art, and as you might have guessed, these are subjects that require you to do stuff, be technical. Maths is heavily a technical subject because it doesn't ask you to like ponder upon like why the Pythagoras theorem came to be, like, and write an essay upon it. It wants you to use the Pythagoras theorem and do questions. It wants you to do maths. You have to speak French. You have to understand French.
Je comprends.
You have to draw an art piece. You have to write a piece of code. These are all ways that technical subjects are tested. And so for the technicals to study for these, you have to do them a lot. Why do you think Asians are quote unquote naturally good at maths? It's not actually a genetic thing at all. It's simply the fact that when we were younger, a lot of Asian parents tend to make us do a lot of maths questions. And so it was actually unconsciously the fact that through repetition and getting used to the questions, doing a lot, that's the way you get good at a technical subject. And that's why all of my math teachers I've had always say the best way to just get good at maths is to do a lot of maths questions. And so for some people that might be a great thing. You know that if you do the work, you'll get good at it. Whereas for some people that might seem tedious. But make sure you're doing the thing. speak a lot of French. I went to all of like the speak opening clinics because I wanted to practice French as much as possible. Speaking, play music, draw lots, do lots of questions. But a tip I also have for all of this is to actually understand, because especially for maths, when you're doing technical subjects, understanding, as you can kind of see, is like a puzzle piece that's in all of these subjects. Because when you understand, like for example, especially in maths, as things get more complicated, when you understand why a certain step was done within like a question, why did they divide by sign there? Why did they log? Looking at YouTube and watching work solutions, looking at someone like working through the solution and seeing their thought process is a great way to revise, and so make sure you utilize those. Subjects are rarely 100% technical though, and so use flashcards and any other necessary devices to memorize the essential details, but most importantly get those reps in. And the third group are the Analyticals. Literature, English, history, philosophy, economics. These are all analytical subjects, or more well known as essay subjects. Getting good at the way that you should study and you get good at analysis and essays is a mix of conceptual and the technical things that we talked about. You have to actually memorize and know as a skill how to write a good essay. That's quite technical. There's a quite steep learning curve when it comes to writing essays, because for each subject, the way that you need to argue, the way that you need to structure essay is quite specific. But once you get a hang of that structure, it's just a case of repeating that over and over and over again. Ask teachers for structures, for pure paragraph, etc. Read lots and lots of exemplar essays that have gotten 4 marks, and just copy the structures. If you search up like a 4-mark or an exemplar essay, you can find them a lot of the time. You can ask your teacher, ask your classmate who got better than you, and just copy what they're doing, the structures, how they're forming their things, etc. And that's how you get good at essays. But then after that, it's just a case of doing the technical. Practice writing a lot. Once you get the hang of it, especially how to compare, how to write convincingly, these are all skills that you can build up. As I mentioned, learning like these acronyms can really help for your analysis and essays. Pure paragraphs, APFC plus link for psychology, and keep in mind that although I've outlined 3 main areas for different subjects, you have to think of it as like those triple Venn diagrams, right? A lot of the time, subjects fall in between 2 of them. It might be analytical and technical. There might be subjects with all 3. For example, economics is heavily technical because of the math side, but it's also analytical because of the essays that it gets you to write. And so I hope this just gives you a bit of clarity about how to study for each of them, and you can mix and merge for each of your subjects and the type of subject and example that you're following. And if you do want to get my 4-mark essays, my exemplar essays, you want to get paid accounts for all of those practice questions that I mentioned that you should be doing, my notes, my resources, everything that I used and everything top students are using, make sure to check out Student Accelerator, because that's my program where I've helped countless students by giving them access to my personal revision materials, my exemplar essays, and hours upon videos and lectures that all come together to help them become the best student that they can be. It's worked for loads of students, and if you want to check that out, that'll be the first link in the description. But as always, I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one. Good luck in any test, bro.